it's been a while. So it's been a really busy week with our I Quit Life process, and we've had a lot of progression, which is something that I will update you on. But if you don't follow me on Snapchat, do. I answer some live questions there, especially because I like answering questions face to face, and these are ones that I probably won't feature in a future video. But in today's video, what I want to talk about was one of the most top requested videos that we had in the health series, which is the top 5 foods that I eliminated to help balance my hormones and give me more energy. So the first food was processed foods. It's gonna be a really hard thing to eliminate entirely, but processed foods are definitely, as we all know, very taxing on the system. There's many ingredients, oftentimes a lot of chemical ingredients, things that we don't understand, and that concoction or mixture comes into our body and taxes the whole system. We're talking about liver, kidneys, gallbladder, digestive flora, even the acids and the enzymes that come about are a little bit confused to our body's metabolism, saying, how much do I release? When do I release it? Because there's so much stuff going on here. Keep in mind that when you have a lot of food in your body, even if it's good food, whether it's chemicals or things that your body's having a hard time processing, it's going to weigh that on the liver, which is then going to weigh that on the gallbladder, and everything else that doesn't get processed gets stored into fat. So your fats don't just store fats, they store all kinds of things like chemicals and toxins in the form of lipids. And this is also why, side note, people who have a higher ratio of fat cells in their body tend to have more disease or sickness. As these cells grow, they can only contain so much, and they begin to split off, mitosis, creating more new fat cells, which is more storage units, which makes it harder for our metabolism to keep the weight down, and just a lot easier for it to say, never mind, let's just store it in here. And through that splitting process, if we have a lot of toxins or issues within those cells, then that's what makes it really easy for disease to evolve. So like I said before, it might be hard to avoid all processed food, because let's face it, if we're buying apples and oranges in a grocery store, they're going to be processed to a certain extent. But the best rule of thumb is to make sure that you can understand all of the ingredients on the list. And in my book, it's less is more. So less ingredients is more. It gives your body a little more of a chance to fully digest each ingredient in that food. Number 2 is going to be dairy. And we've all heard this argument before. Dairy is meant for cows, and we are the only species on the planet that consumes another animal's milk. I will admit, it tastes really great. It feels very fulfilling. It fulfills a lot of our needs that we need nutritionally, but at the same time, we don't have the same digestive processes that cows do. We were not intended to grow from a baby calf to a 2-ton cow. So dairy is extremely taxing on the system. Not only that, it promotes an extremely acidic and inflammatory environment within the body. So even if you don't seem to have negative side effects to dairy, what you're gonna notice is when you compound these foods in your body, you're only increasing the stress or the taxation on the body, and that's what's going to cause the body to go in an imbalanced state. So dairy, cut it out. If you have to have dairy, the alternative I would suggest, if you're not into almond milk or coconut milk, would be goat's milk. That's more like human breast milk than is cow's milk, so people have less of a problem. And my argument is that most people have some sort of dairy sensitivity. It's just that food sensitivities, oftentimes we may not notice them unless a bigger problem occurs or if we consume too much of it. Next thing I have on my list is gluten. Gluten, I don't think is necessarily a culprit. And for those of you guys who have had poor gluten experiences, share them below, because it is very common nowadays to have gluten tolerances, intolerances, or gluten sensitivity. The reason being, I believe, is because gluten is everywhere. Just try being on a gluten-free diet for a week and you'll understand how difficult it is to truly eat completely gluten-free. Now what happens in the body is when we eat too much of the same thing or we expose it to too much, you can often develop a food sensitivity. It's almost telling you, hey, I don't need any more of that, I don't want any more. So you develop an adverse reaction to it. You need to be able to diversify and give ourselves a different balance of nutrients, of macro and micro, just to be able to completely fulfill all the nutrient levels that we have. And it's a very complicated balance. So with gluten, because we're exposed to it so much, lots of us are beginning to develop these sensitivities, and these sensitivities come at quite a high cost. You're talking about adrenal fatigue, hormonal imbalances, ADHD, depression, anxiety, brain fog, all kinds of things, and even something like celiac, which is an autoimmune disease. And so with gluten, I'm not going to say completely eliminate it, because that can be a really tough thing, but if you do have the option and if you can minimize it, I think it'll reduce your chances for less of a problem. Once you do have gluten sensitivity or some small level of form of it, it's going to really affect the balance of the hormones, which can cause that exhaustion and all the things that I mentioned before. So the next thing on my list is meats. And I'm not here to tell you be vegan, be not vegan, eat meat, don't eat meat, but what I can say is that we eat too much meat and it is really taxing on the system. It's super acidic to the environment. It's very hard to process. When you look at fruit digests within about an hour in our body. It's a very easy thing for it to go down. But when you look at meat, oftentimes these meats, especially if you're eating a lot of it and it's being mixed with a lot of foods, it can sit in our stomach, literally rotting, creating acid and gases that are causing imbalances and even more stress to the body for up to a week. That's a really long time to carry this food in your body. Think of how hard your body has to work to digest that. So if you can limit the meat or stick to light meats and be really aware of where your meats come from, how it's processed, it's gonna help you a lot. I'm also a firm believer of karmatic energy. So if these meats are processed in facilities that are really tough on the animals or not ethical, these animals are getting pumped up with antibiotics because they're so sick and dirty that it would not be good for us to consume if we didn't kill everything off with the antibiotics. On top of it, you're talking about a lot of pain and suffering that's going on your plate and in your body. That's something that I really don't want to touch. And I feel like in my past experience is something that has affected me very, very greatly. I also think it doesn't help the super virus scenario. So again, limit meats, make sure it's clean meats, and be really aware of how it makes you feel in your system. So number 5, which I think is the biggest culprit and the thing that I feel like that has affected me the most, is eliminating refined sugars. Refined sugars cause and wreak havoc in the body. Not only does it promote inflammation and inconsistencies in the hormones, it creates an addictive cycle, and as you guys know, the sugar crash. This also promotes a lot of issues like diabetes, getting sick, lowered immunity, as well as extremely imbalanced hormonal levels. And if you guys ever take the time to look into food, you will see just how much sugar is laden in every single thing that we eat, especially if it's processed or packaged or something that we're getting from the restaurant or the store. Restaurants are huge culprits for loading their foods with tons and tons of refined sugar. I've also noticed that in my process, mixing refined sugars with high fats, so basically eating something that is sweet and really high in fat, like maybe ice cream as an example, can also cause a lot more of an issue. It's as if the body has a harder time processing the sugar because it's busy processing the fat at the same time. So this is something that I really try to keep separate in my diet. Obviously not always possible, but I do this by just keeping it in mind and tapering my diet, meaning that I start with higher sugars like fresh sugars, fruits and veggies during the top of my day, and then I slowly start to introduce fat towards the end of my day, having the last meal be the highest in fat or starch content. This is something again that we could talk about a little bit more in future videos. Just keep it in mind, if you're consuming a lot of refined sugar and you feel like it's really hard to get off of, there's a reason that it's wreaking a lot of havoc. And this is something that I've seen very consistently with all my clients in the past. People who have a hard time staying motivated or suffer from a higher level of adrenal fatigue, they're typically really addicted to sugar. So we can talk about food cravings, which was another option that you guys were asking about in recent videos, or how to relieve yourself from sugar addiction. If you know me, there are past videos about me or Brett's wife being a sugar addict, and I was very, very addicted to sugar. It was like a drug to me. And in a lot of cases, if you look at the biochemistry or the chemical reaction within the body, it actually responds to sugar like it is a drug. It is meant to be an addictive, and even though you know it's bad for you and you feel bad about it, or it's made you feel bad in the past, you can't help but like it and want it and love it. Want some more of it. So I saved the best for last. If there's one thing that you can focus on reducing or eliminating completely right now, I would say that first one is refined sugar. Number 5 is caffeine. Now there's a lot of natural caffeine in things like I love cacao, I love tea, but a lot of times I think in this culture we abuse caffeine. And in abusing caffeine, this goes directly hand in hand with stress or the elements or areas of health, the most important areas. And I think with caffeine, you tax the system because it's a hard thing to process, but the system also becomes very reliant on it. Think about this. Caffeine not only boosts your energy, increases your metabolism, it also increases your heart rate, and it also dilates your blood vessels. So this allows more oxygen and blood and everything else to pump through it. This is what caffeine withdrawals result in, a depression of the actual blood vessels that were dilated, which causes extreme migraine and pain. It's very, very uncomfortable. So your body is in optimum state. We all know that caffeine can increase the performance, energy, mood, everything about it. And actually, if you look at the dynamics of caffeine, it can be classified classified as a steroid, and many people do. But the reason that I think caffeine is a great thing to take off the list is because you want your body to be built off of a foundation or a structure that's not dependent on other things, right? We want something that is long lasting and is good for our body, makes us feel good. Unfortunately, caffeine doesn't do that. If you like caffeine like I do, sometimes once in a blue moon, I may have a coffee if it's something that I'm offered, or if it's like a nice coffee. I do have tea every once in a while. I mix this up with herbal teas and I make sure I'm not just downing the green tea because I'm wanting more energy. And I promise you, there will be a time, if you can just get through it, that you will not feel like you cannot live with caffeine every single morning. You're gonna feel amazing. But if you are getting off of caffeine, or any of these foods for that matter, you can have sort of a negative or adverse reaction to begin with. Remember, your body has been so taxed, it is becoming sensitive, imbalanced, and this is what's taking toll in our metabolism and our hormonal levels, which then affects our moods and the way that we live and perceive life. So for me, I feel like it is absolutely essential to get your body, or your hardware, so to speak, in the right place. Because think about it, if you have your computer and your mouse and your keyboard's not working, or you can't see clearly through the screen, it's not a really great experience on the computer. And I like to relate ourselves to that, because to me, in my mind is the software and this body is the hardware, or the vessel that I am experiencing life in. And you want to be able to make sure that that is really well taken care of, because you only get one. And life is too good to miss out on, or to be cut short or limited because our external bodies are not in the prime or the best shape possible. So that's it for today. I hope you guys got a lot out of this video. It was a lot. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Again, sign up to my Snapchat. I will answer everything that I don't get to in future videos. And let me know you like this video by hitting thumbs up. Also, if you guys feel like anybody would relate to or benefit from this video, please feel free to share that. Something I mentioned on Snapchat today, and it's just kind of a side note that's on my mind, is we gain trust by learning to accept one another and connect in our similarities and our understanding. And this is why women were so strong in the tribe. This is where compassion and empathy come from. It's very easy to get analytical, and our world is driven very left brain based, you know, but I feel like it's so awesome because we also have this community that's starting to get in touch with both hemispheres, and they're becoming creative and feeling that energy and understanding how important it is to have that energy on the positive side of things. And that's a beautiful thing, because in that mindset, we can change the world. I really believe that. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.